So in many ways, a mirror is very similar to mind. For example, a mirror is always, there's certain qualities that a mirror has that remain always the same regardless of what reflections are appearing in the mirror. And so they are, for example, openness. A mirror doesn't resist any of the reflections that appear within it. It doesn't try to force any particular reflections to appear within it. It's always luminous. It's always clear. And I've always loved that metaphor because for me it's very, it makes it easy for me to recognize that, wow, yeah, really, the nature of mind really is exactly like that. That this cognizant, this lucid cognizance in which all of my experiences occur really is always open. And it's not even my choice. It just is that way. It's not like because I'm trained up at being open, just mind is open. Nobody has any choice. It's always lucid. It's always clear. And another quality is that it's always stable. So whether the colour red appears in the mirror or the colour blue appears in the mirror is always just stable. It doesn't flinch. So yeah, when we take a moment to recognise the nature of our own mind, it is amazing to see these qualities are inherent. And when I say mind, I'm not talking about some abstract idea of something that exists in our head. What I'm talking about is everything that is perceived. Everything that is perceived is mind. It's because mind exists that stuff exists. Without mind, there is no stuff. Therefore, all stuff is the evidence of mind. So every perception, all thoughts, all emotions, all experiences are the flow of our own mind. And it's really true. The lucidity of mind, the openness of mind, the stability of mind, they're all inherent. They are the nature of our mind. It's not something we have to attain, it just is that way. But what we are endeavouring to offer in Balanced View is to support people to recognise that this is the nature of their mind, and ongoingly offer support as much as each person wants it to become familiar with that. Because in the same way that if a person has 50, well, you don't have pounds in Sweden, if you've got 500 krona in your pocket and you don't know that you've got 500 krona in your pocket, then even though you in fact do have it, in effect you don't. Because your understanding of yourself is that I do not have 50 kroner in my pocket. Therefore you live as though you don't. But if somebody points out to you that, oh, if you just put your hand in your back pocket, you'll find 50 kroner there. It's the same as if you just take a short moment and recognise that the nature of your mind is stable, lucid, open, clear. It's a very simple thing to recognise. It's not like some special, mysterious thing. It's normal human situation. So once you recognise the nature of your mind, only then can you enjoy it. So everybody's already endowed with these qualities, and it's such a shame that for the most part people are unaware of that. Therefore, they're living as though they're lacking, living as though contentment is over there somewhere, when in fact they already have it. It's just a case of recognizing that that's their situation. So yeah, once you know you have the 50 kroner in your back pocket, then there's all manner of things you can do with it. Not so much actually with 50 kroner, but like open intelligence is incomparable. There's nothing comparable to open intelligence or the nature of our own mind in terms of the value that it affords us in our life. So the stability of the mirror doesn't look any particular way in terms of what it's reflecting, and it's the same with mind. The stability of mind is not stable in the sense that what it's reflecting always looks a certain way. So that's not what's being talked about when the word stability is used. The stability is the essential quality of mind, is stable. It doesn't become stable through practicing short moments. It is stable. And in short moments we recognize it again and again. And just like anything, if you recognize again and again, you become more familiar with it. And if you imagine that you've just found your long-lost mother or something, you've just met your mother for the first time, and you've searched for her your whole life. Once you've met her, then through spending time with her, you become familiar with her, and you come to enjoy each other's. You come to enjoy the relationship more and more, have more and more of a beautiful, honouring relationship together. It works the same with open intelligence. So whether we know it or not, it actually is what we've all been looking for. And we have always been endowed with it. So it's a great blessing to now know what that is, even if it's still seems like difficult to grasp, or it's always difficult to grasp because you can't grasp it, it just exists. You can't get it and put it in a jar so that you can always look at it. Finally I've caught it. I've caught my contentment and I'm just going to keep it. You can't do that because it's everywhere. It's the nature of all perception. So this is what we've been looking for. It's the nature of our own mind is the answer to true contentment and true potentiation of our gifts and altruistic nature. It's actually like it works in every circumstance that you can see that our basic intent is altruism, and often that initial motivation is confused by lots of emphasis of hope and fear. But underneath everything, what we all want is the very best for ourselves and for everybody. And so, like for example, if you notice that whenever you're very enthused by something, or something brings you a lot of joy, like for some reason, I'm always seem to be addicted to one band or musician, and then after a few months, then it's another band or musician, and I noticed I always have the compulsion to, I want to send it to other people. I want other people to enjoy it as well, and usually they're not interested, but I noticed that even in normal circumstances, there's always when we're benefited by something, we naturally want other people to enjoy it as well. So when we find out that our contentment and our well-being exists exactly where and as we are, this wish for everybody to enjoy it is extremely powerful. And that's what altruism is. It's not like, you know, always having warm, fuzzy thoughts about other people. That's an unattainable situation. So if that's what we're trying to achieve, we will never get there. But the wish for each person to enjoy open intelligence, to enjoy the nature of their own mind, as we do increasingly, this is what altruism is. And it's quite amazing to come to see that this really is our base motivation with everything that we do, everything that we are compelled to do. Underneath it is the wish to be okay ourselves and the wish for everybody to be okay. And then, like I said, if that initial motivation becomes confused through misunderstanding that our contentment is naturally present, then we can end up doing all sorts of things, competing with others for different things, and sometimes even maybe being aggressive or hostile between each other. This is what's happening in the world because people don't know where to find what they're looking for. So once that's found, then these ways of relating become less and less prominent in the way that we are with ourselves and with others. And not because we've done some kind of incredibly difficult, sophisticated psychological accomplishment, and where we've ordered all of our traits and thoughts in a certain way and used all sorts of techniques. Not because we've done anything like that. We've just finally allowed ourselves to be friends with ourselves as we are, friends with reality as it is. And a natural consequence of that is that our gifts are potentiated and our habitual kind of hope and fear-based ways of being just soften and soften and soften and soften. And it doesn't all happen at once. In fact, it happens ongoingly forever. There's no like defined destination to it, which is cool. It's just like inexhaustible. The benefit of open intelligence is inexhaustible. So I found that kind of scary the first time Candice said that to me, because the way I took it was, oh my God, that means it just goes on forever and I never reach, that's how I kind of took it in that moment. But then as time went on, I sort of realized how liberating that is. It's liberating because then we don't have to have like a stubborn idea in our mind of what we're trying to aim towards in terms of the qualities, etc., that we have. Which means that we can more and more just allow ourselves to be as we are now and realize that is it, that is the answer. Yeah, so I think something that helps very much in the circumstance that you asked about, well, in any circumstance, but something that really helps to to clarify a situation without needing to think about it, is just to be sensitive to what's going to be of most benefit in this situation for the other person and for me. And what's nice about that is that it opens up all possibilities, you know. Like, I'm not making any suggestion in any particular way, but it's just what's best is not always what has immediately occurred to us, or it's not always what we assume is best, you know, like the nature of a relationship can evolve over time, and it's helpful to be open to those changes, you know, with this one principle in mind: what's going to serve most, what's going to serve this person the most. In my experience, that makes it makes relationships much less tumultuous, and it only needs to be you that has that. I know that your partner has that as well, which is wonderful. Yeah. But it's even that's very cool that it only needs to be us that has that commitment, that I am committed to what's going to serve the other person best, whatever that is. It might be this, it might be that, it might be this today, it might be that in 6 months, you know. So, and it's not always easy. But it makes things very simple. Yeah, intimate relationships are obviously something that brings up a lot for most people, and it's, yeah, like you said, it's an amazing training ground. It's an amazing training ground in serving, expecting nothing in return. And you're very accomplished in that. And you'll only get more and more accomplished, you know, with time. Accomplished is a really horrible word to use, but you know what I mean. It's not like you get a medal or something, like a badge, like I swam 10 meters. I serve without expecting anything in return. Not like that, but you know what I mean. Yeah. That's basically if anything's a yardstick to measure progress, that possibly is it. The ability to serve others, expecting nothing in return. This is essentially what the fruit of the teaching is, and it implies complete freedom, because when there's no expectation, then there's complete freedom. The more we want, the more we are demanding from reality, the more unsatisfied we are. The less we're demanding, the more content we are. Because reality doesn't conform to our preferences. Well, in a way it does, because reality is our preferences and everything else. So in that sense it's perfectly aligned. But circumstantially speaking, reality doesn't unfold perfectly according to our wishes. And you only have to be 1 day old to realize that. You don't need much experience for that to become clear. But yeah. And it's also the best way of helping others to find that same freedom, is by exemplifying it ourselves. And especially in close relationships, when one person takes full responsibility, it makes it easier for the other person to start doing the same. Whereas requesting that they do that tends to be less, almost annoying. So we just do it ourselves, you know, and it creates an environment in which other people can also feel their way into that way of being, even if they know nothing about the teaching. Yeah, so can you speak about power in affliction rather than trying to get rid of it? That's a really good question, because it's, yeah, I remember maybe the first time that became very clear to me, that affliction is itself beneficial. Shortly after first finding the teaching, I was in India at the time, and I went home, and like back in where I was familiar, like all of the like habituated data that I'd associated with being at home suddenly were like overwhelming, like loneliness, just feeling like utterly worthless, purposeless, and somehow I remembered the teaching in that moment, and was able to just, I was so exhausted with trying to do anything about it, all the just trying to keep these feelings at arm's length. And in that moment that I just remembered about the teaching, and I just decided to just give up. I give up. But whatever this loneliness and this sadness is going to do is fine with me. Yeah. If it wants to stay with me for the rest of my life, I give up. It's welcome to be there. And in that moment, and when I speak about it in that way, it sounds like something special, but it's not. It's just normal. But when I just stopped trying to do something about it, then I just felt such incredible love and togetherness with all beings. It was obvious in that moment that everybody experiences loneliness from time to time, experiences sadness, experiences a sense of worthlessness or being overwhelmed. And just being able to feel, oh my God, like that we're such incredible love for myself as well, and all of the effort I've used to try and get rid of these things unnecessarily. And so in that way I realized that, wow, that's so weird, that loneliness, when I allowed it to be exactly when I allowed it to be exactly as it was, actually what it was incredible love and connection with all beings, which is, when you descriptively, they're the two most opposite emotions, but in that moment I realized that they're actually exactly the same thing, but only when it's allowed to be exactly as it is. As long as we're trying to push it away, then we never come to see that. So that was one of the first times that this teaching of the beneficial nature of affliction, when I really knew what it meant. And just like I was saying earlier, that seeing that again and again and again and again, we grow more and more assured of it, and just like you have. And more and more you don't really have to think about it, and certain things that used to be challenging will become almost like you just don't even think about it anymore. It just isn't even a challenge. If somebody reminds you of it, you're just like, wow, how on earth did that change so much? Wow, that's incredible. I've been trying to solve that my whole life. How on earth is that just suddenly, and you can't even remember how to get het up about it anymore. You don't know how you used to do that. And then usually there's also other things that take even longer. Like all of us have certain things that we may have emphasized particularly intensively, and then usually it just takes longer for these things. But you only need one experience of the teaching being implemented in one circumstance. Once that is decisively our experience, then we have a template for all other experiences, just like you shared. So once we know how it works in our own experience, then it becomes much easier to apply it, and it only takes a short moment to know it in our own experience. So in a short moment, we just completely relax, and that's it. And then there's a relief there that we can always come back to. There's no one and no circumstance, no thought, no emotion that prevents us from enjoying that relief. We may presently take them to be preventative of us enjoying it, but actually they're not. And over time we realize that. And with the question about burnout, I think perhaps in this case it would be most helpful to be in touch with your trainer, just because she obviously knows you and knows your circumstances intimately. And but yeah, just one thing I would say about that is don't be hesitant to honour yourself and your needs, whatever they might be, at any particular time. And it took me a long time to learn that. I felt like to be a good person, the evidence of that is that I martyr myself, work myself to death, and then that means I'm a good person, And if I don't do that, I'm not a good person. It sounds bizarre when you put it into words, but so these days I have a much more forgiving and helpful attitude towards myself. And so if you needed a period of time where with less demands on you, then that's perfect. And but it could. I'm not downplaying what you're saying, but it is also interesting to see. Like I've never heard anybody in the UK talk about burnout. I don't know anybody who's burnt out in the UK, and I don't think that's a fundamental difference between people from Britain and people from Sweden. Something that they do have a lot in Britain is indigestion, and I don't think Swedish people have indigestion. It's just that nobody thinks about it. So a lot of these things is also just how we're used to interpreting our experience. So through learning from others, like in any other case, we learn from others how to interpret what we're experiencing. And so we can add solidity to things that actually aren't necessarily the way that we're initially understanding them to be. So that's the way it works with all belief systems, not just with regards to health and things. It's always the same. Holding on to a belief system is the cause of suffering. And so when we relax, I'm not suggesting that we just go, well, I haven't really got, like someone chops our arm off and we go, well, no, my arm isn't really chopped off, it's just a belief system. I don't mean that. We obviously take care of ourselves to the best of our ability, but also just relaxing while we're doing it, the whole thing can open up as well, something that I certainly wouldn't recommend that it's necessary in any way to reject any belief system. I'm just suggesting that we don't need to hold on to them as if our life depends on it, like defend our view to the end sort of thing, our understanding of reality to the end. And becoming flexible, as you described, is actually very it may be that there's like growing pains, so to speak, with opening up in that way, because we're used to feeling connection with others based on having the same belief systems. That's kind of what the sense of community that comes from that. But when we open up in the way that you're describing and become more comfortable with it over time, gradually, then our connection and sense of community with others is based on something that everybody shares. So irrespective of what somebody's belief system is, we have the sense of togetherness and respect for them purely through virtue of the fact that they exist.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So, but I do know, I think from my own experience, what you're sharing, and I think that's perhaps a good way to understand it is that feeling of being lost itself is just another perception that again everybody experiences, and through allowing that to be as it is, then you open up that connection with everybody who's experiencing that, and I can tell that you understand that. Yeah. But like I said, it isn't always easy. It isn't always easy, So it's kind of helpful to understand that, because then we're not hard on ourselves when we find something challenging.